My neighbor forgot this phone was in her pocket, sat down, and now the screen is cracked. Luckily, the frame doesn't seem to be bent, but the LCD screen definitely needs to be replaced. I want to get this fixed because they're really nice people, but I've never worked on a Samsung A11, so today I'm going to see if I can fix it. First thing to do is take out the SIM and SD card, then I'm going to check that I have all the right parts before I open it up. I'll have this LCD screen linked below, but it's very important that you get the one with a frame instead of just the LCD panel. If you get the one without the frame, the repair is a lot more difficult because you have to separate the LCD panel from the glass. The one on the right has no frame, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to start by separating the back cover with a plastic pry tool. It's important that you don't take off the back cover completely because there's a ribbon cable attached to the biometric sensor. It's glued down, so I need to use a heat gun or a hairdryer to heat it up to take it off. With it heated up, it just takes a little push and the back cover will come right off. To do this repair right, I'm going to have to transfer all the old pieces and move them over to the new screen. When working on electronics, the first thing to do is remove the power supply, which in this case is the battery. So I'm going to remove this metal bracket, then disconnect it. There's 3 screws holding the metal bracket, and the third one is underneath the biometric sensor. These screws are pretty tiny, so you want to make sure that you have them organized. I like this repair mat because the magnetic boxes hold the screws in place, and it also helps me line everything up when I put it back together. That bracket covers off, so I'm going to disconnect these ribbon cables and the battery. Next, I'll remove the biometric sensor, and then take off the plastic cover on the bottom of the phone. There's a lot of screws down here, so make sure you have everything organized. I'll share a link to the magnetic mat to help you organize the screws, but you can also just draw boxes on a piece of paper. Before I take out this motherboard, I have to disconnect the Wi-Fi and LTE antennas and this ribbon cable in the corner. The 2 antennas sit in a channel on the side, so I need to get them out so they don't get damaged when I lift up the motherboard on the top of the phone. At this point, I almost missed the magnet in the corner, so make sure to remove that now. If it doesn't come out, you may have to heat up the corner of the phone to separate the glue. Now I'm ready to disassemble the top portion of the phone, and I'm going to start by removing this black plastic cover. You might have just heard my kids running in the room, and that's because they wanted to tell everyone thanks for subscribing. We really do appreciate it. The next step is to remove the 2 screws on the side of the motherboard. With those removed, the motherboard is free, so I'm going to make sure one more time that the antenna don't get caught, and I'll put a little pressure on the headphone jack to pop out the motherboard. When I took out the motherboard, I could see that the earpiece was still attached to the screen, so I'm going to give it a little heat and it will pop right out. The battery's up next, so I'm going to apply some heat on the glass to separate the glue. I need to get it pretty hot, but I only want to apply a little pressure on the battery itself, otherwise it could damage it. I got the front glass pretty hot, and now I'm going around with my pry tools to separate the glue. As you're taking it out, make sure you do not puncture or bend the battery. If you're having a real hard time getting it out, just apply more heat on the front glass to loosen up the glue. The battery's out, so the last step is to remove the power and volume buttons. This ribbon cable is very fragile, so make sure you're extra careful when taking it off. If you're getting a lot of resistance, just heat it up a little bit more. This was the last thing I needed from the old screen, so now I can put everything back together on the new screen. I started to put everything back together, but I forgot to take off these plastic pieces, so make sure you don't miss this step. The white strips underneath are the glue that's going to hold down the battery, so try not to damage them. If these white strips are damaged, you can use double-sided tape to hold down the battery. Also make sure that none of the 3 ribbon cables are stuck under the battery when you put it in place. Now all I have to do is put everything back in place the way I found it. I didn't mention this earlier, but it's good practice that whenever you take something apart, use your phone to take a picture of it so you have something to reference if you get lost. When you put on the metal bracket, make sure that the battery and the 2 ribbon cables and the biometric sensor are all connected. The metal bracket protects the connections, so you have to take everything apart if you forget to do it. The top portion's all secure, so now all I have left is to install the bottom motherboard. Just make sure that the 2 antennae are secured in the channels so they don't get pinched from the back cover. The back cover fit without any problems, so now I'm going to pop in the SIM card and make sure that the phone is working correctly. I threw on the case and cleaned off the screen, then I powered it up, and I'm happy to say that my neighbor has a fully working Samsung A11 screen. Again, I'll have everything I used in this video linked below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.